Hey, what's up, YouTubers? Just making a short video on what it's like to live in Shela, Guatemala, and various other parts of Guatemala. I've lived in Shela, Lago Atitlan, and then I've also spent quite a few little bit of time in eastern Guatemala, like Betan, and one of my favorite places in Guatemala is Coban. Anyhow, where I live is pretty high up in the mountains. It's not the highest point in the mountains, but Shela is actually pretty high. I'm not sure if it's colder than San Cristobal de las Casas or if what the deal is, but right now it's really damn cold. I think the highs now are the low 60s and the lows are in the 40s in the night. So for people, a lot of people have this idea that Central America is really hot and humid everywhere, but up in the mountains actually it's pretty chilly. It reminds me a lot of Seattle where I grew up. There's a lot of beautiful pine trees, and you can walk through the forest of the pine trees, and it really smells nice. Well, except for all the fumes and all the buses that go by sometimes, but if you get off the beaten path a little bit, you can be in the forest, and it's a really nice smell and feeling. It's a little bit chilly here though for me, a little too chilly. Like for example in Coban, it's a little bit warmer. For me it's about perfect for Guatemala. In Guatemala, in the mountains, it can be quite chilly. I have a little fireplace, but right now I don't have any access to wood, so I'm gonna have to get a heater or something. Anyways, it takes some getting used to. I mean, the indigenous culture, it's a little bit of culture shock. It's a little different than, like, say, Mexico. What I notice is people here are very nice. They're very, I don't know how to put it, just very nice. Anyways, kind of reminds me a lot of the Philippines, if you've ever been there. Sometimes dealing with people here can be a pain in the neck, but at the end of the day, a lot of people here are pretty nice. It's a lot slower than, say, Mexico or the United States or Canada. So if you're looking for a fast-paced life, you might not like it here, or you might, who knows. It's a lot slower paced. I mean, real slow. I mean, believe it or not, in most of Guatemala, you can just work for cash. There's hardly any, well, I won't say hardly any, but there's most everything is cash and carry down here. If you need to get paid in, like as a contractor, you could just set up a corporate account and get paid that way. Taxes are pretty low. That's another nice thing. Most of the taxes are about 5%. Another nice thing is the low cost of living. It doesn't have quite as nice of infrastructure as, like, say, Mexico. The infrastructure is quite a bit like the Philippines, what I'm kind of used to. So you can't get anywhere fast. Even if you have a car or motorcycle, you just cannot get anywhere fast. Especially on the weekends or in a high traffic area, you're just not going to get anywhere fast. It's one thing I don't really care for. Low cost of living, I've talked about that before. I get by on it 500 easy. I know people have 1,000 to 2,000, unless you have to have private schools for your kids or something. I don't know how you're going to spend that much, but some people do. You can spend between 500 and 800 for a really, really exclusive high-end helicopter school here in Guatemala, if you so desire. Maybe 1,200, but 8 to 1,200 is about what you'd expect to pay for one student. Quality of life is not too bad. Although for me, sometimes the culture here gets on my nerves a little bit, so I like to go to Coban. And I'm not sure if it's really the culture, if it's just that there's so many gringos where I live. So it changes the atmosphere a little bit of how indigenous people interact with us. But in Coban, it's really, really peaceful. It's a little bit warmer. For me, it's about perfect weather. In Coban, the cost of living is dirt cheap. It's hardly any gringos. I grew up in Central Washington. It kind of reminds me of Central Washington a little bit, where it's kind of a dry, not heat, it's not really hot, but it's dry. It's kind of a dry climate. And it reminds me of the 1980s and kind of the early 80s in the States. It's kind of a cool place. If you haven't been there, you might want to go there. The guidebooks doesn't really do it justice, but I really like it. And then there's, let me think now, if you go towards east, you can go get into Honduras. Copan is actually pretty nice. It's in Honduras, but it's really not far away and not too different, but with the Honduran currency kind of pretty low now against the dollar, really low cost of living there, and it's a little bit hotter. It's a little bit hotter than even Coban, but I know it's not in Guatemala, but it's actually a pretty nice area to chill out in for a while. But I'm forgetting. Oh yeah, Petan. That's a really nice area too. Now that can be a lot hotter there. I visited there when it was hot and kind of not so hot. What's cool about there is you're on a lake, and to me it's not as touristy as like Lago Atitlan. That place is really touristy. Didn't really care for it. In Lago Atitlan, there's Penachel, and there's I want to say San Marcos, or I can't remember, but there's some places that don't have a lot of tourists. Some places that have a lot like Penachel. There, it's a lot smaller. It's a lot more boring, at least for me. It's not too much to do except for hang out in bars and drink if you enjoy that. Then there's the kind of the hippy dippy part of the lake. You can go there too. That not my cup of tea, but if that's your thing, you might like it there. Thing about the lake is there's all kinds of choices for cost of living. If you want a $50 place or $100 or $200 place, you can get that. Or there's even places on the lake that are like $500 or $1,000. It's a little bit out of my price range, but it's really small, so everyone gets to know everyone, so everyone kind of gets on everyone's nerves, so I didn't really care for it. Now, Petan, I think it's Lago Isbal, I can't remember, but that's a really peaceful area. I really like that. This is a nice lake, nice sunsets. When the sun's going down, it has a really beautiful mall there. Some really nice restaurants. There's a place called Cool Beans that has really fantastic coffee, and some of the best food I've ever had in Guatemala was at that restaurant. Really fantastic place. Those are just a few of my observations of Guatemala. Anyways, that's all I got for right now. Thanks.